You're listening to the Learnings and Missteps podcast, where we intend to change the image of careers in the trades. We celebrate the real men and women who have built careers in the construction industry by bringing their personal stories straight to you. I began my career as a plumber's apprentice in the late 1900s. Over the last 26 years, I've had the fortune of meeting some of the most resilient, intelligent, and inspiring people who happen to be construction workers. My career path as a plumber has provided me with experiences and opportunities I thought were inaccessible. And I want you to know that the trades are a place where dreams can come true. These stories are brought to you by three brothers who share a mother. I am Jesse, your host. Our in-house writer is Ernest, aka La Voz.
Hello.
And our co-host, Renee.
What's up?
Y'all ready?
Yes, sir.
Dale.
Welcome and super happy to have you. I got a question for you. Can you think of a time when you were in an environment that no longer served you? Felt a little trapped, felt a little suffocated? I know I have. And our guest, Jarrod Tomassi, who's an EH&S professional, veteran, fireman, superhero, he's going to share his formula for breaking out of this type of situation. Renee Caterpillar Duron was not present for this video. He's a family man. He's got two young babies, a beautiful wife, Areli. We love you, Areli. And he was spending time with his family when Jarrod and I did the interview. But as the conversation goes, you're also going to get a new set of lenses to see veterans through that will definitely build your empathy muscle. And you're going to want to listen real close to the whole conversation, because we uncover a connection between courage and vulnerability. As a young man, I thought those things were completely separate and independent things. As I get more highlights and more gray hair, it becomes clear that they're absolutely not separate. And before we kick off this episode, I want y'all to join me in sending some love to Felipe Engineer Manriquez. He is the host of the EBFC show. Check him out. He's on the YouTube and the podcast apps and LinkedIn and Twitter. Felipe is our very first builder level patron. And so what that means is he has sparked the flame. And we know it's just going to keep growing. You're invited to join the mission and access some exclusive content. You want to get the details about it? Check out patreon.com/learnings and missteps. We have multiple levels where you can get different behind-the-scenes exclusive content and contribute financially. So if you have the resources, and by resources I mean money and time, and are driven to do so, please sign up. And if not, enjoy this episode. All right, we're here with Mr. Jarrod Tomassi. And before we got on here, Jarrod, I thought I knew what you were doing, but I learned that you're doing all kinds of new stuff all of a sudden. What are you up to now?
Yeah, man, you and I go way back, dude. And first of all, I just want to say it was a really good time working with you. You always made me smile, and you just brought a really cool culture wherever you went. So, yes, yeah, you got it. So yeah, I left Turner and moved over to from San Antonio, and moved over to Orlando, and was working with a large remote medical company. And right around the time where I arrived here in Orlando, I got recruited back into a mega project back in the data center world. And so I still have a Texas driver's license.
Of course.
Yeah, I didn't have a chance to get it to Florida. And now I've got to get it in Illinois.
Wow. So you went from Texas to Florida, now to Illinois.
Like 8 months.
That's what I was just going to say. That was like in a very short period of time. But I guess when you got skills, people want you, huh?
Man, I don't know. The doors opened. I guess I had the right skills, and it just made sense. And so there was always a leap of faith when you make these transitions, especially, at my point in career, but it felt right. So we just did it. And with my wife's support, we walked through the door.
Nice. And so how is the family adjusting to these opportunities?
So Texas was amazing, right? Hill country,
Mm-hmm.
weather was good. And then we got to Florida and they were like, wow, like this is amazing. The two of six of us are excited to make snow angels.
Okay.
The other four are in support of moving to be together, but I don't think they're as excited to make snow angels as the other two.
So are y'all moving to Illinois? Like that's the next plan?
Yeah. I've been traveling back and forth for a while, and it just got to the point where we want to be back together, and the timing's right. So the first phase of the project has been very stressful, requiring a lot of hours and a lot of focus. And now I feel like it's a right time to bring them up there and kind of have that normal family life back.
I'm assuming you're serving in the EH&S role at this new mega project.
Yeah. So I'm the safety director for the general contractor side, working very closely with the customer and partners with every other team out there. There's six of us direct, and then there's about 25 indirect safety professionals, and then the on-site clinics, and then your wellness coaches, and there's a lot of cool support.
Man, that's a monster team out there. And I know the energy that you bring, and I bet it's just contagious with them. They're like, "Where'd this guy come from? This dude's on fire. We like this."
they're like from the Midwest. They're like, "Oh my goodness."
You need to turn it down a notch.
Yeah.
They don't know Fiesta like we do in San Antonio. Huh?
I was gonna say with a little bit of California flavor and the Fiesta, man, it's just too much for them. So I had to slow down.
Throttle it back. And so, what do you want our listeners to know about you?
Oh man, I was thinking a lot about this question, and there's so many things that came to mind. But for me, it is really the survivor, but not the victim. And I'll unpack that a little bit. So I was born in a very, very poor family in East Los Angeles. I mean, very poor.
Okay.
Here I am today with a beautiful family and a great career because of just hard work. And I think the message for me to share is more of like a testimony of no matter where you're at, there's nothing really stopping you from getting to the next level except hard work. And I just don't feel that there was much luck at all during that whole process. I feel like there was a lot of faith. That hard work opened doors, and that's what is the byproduct of hard work. Looking back, I know that there's been some real blessings, but no one took me and my family from phase to phase just because. I really feel happy where I'm at. And I think I could actually end my career here at this level because it makes a lot of sense to me. Now, I'm not stopping, and I'm not saying that I wouldn't walk through the next door, but if I stayed right here, I have accomplished a lot from being that little boy in the streets of LA to, being well educated and in a great position to make a major changes, and along with some amazing team members, and then the end result are mega projects that are legacies, connecting the world. That's just, it's not to brag. It's just to say, man, just keep going. Don't stop.
So where did this work ethic that you're talking about, where did that come from? Can you think back and tell us how you developed that?
Yeah, it's really weird because I watched my family, and there was one thing I chose at a young age. As I said, I think a lot of folks may find it easier just to become like what they see. Mm-hmm. And I chose at a young age, and I said, I'm never going to be like them. I was just the one that I don't remember. I was so young. At 16, I had already dropped out of high school. I was working to help buy my own clothes and shoes and food. I think it was like, accept this lifestyle or fight every second to get out of it. And I just joined the Army, and I think that's where the work ethic came from, is the Army. Okay. Really. And then it just, I have to admit that a lot of the the anxieties of ever going back to that also started driving that, right? So it's just, it's like, for me, it was like, I know what that looks like, and I don't ever want to go back there. Then new things happened in my life that, I started accomplishing tasks, and I realized that courage and hard work was really the only recipe that needed to get to those next steps. And then, of course, the most amazing things started happening, like my marriage and then my kids. And that became my new driving passion, to make sure that they never go back to what I went through. And so they're my number one driving factor, my number one.
Okay, so your family's the driving force. They're the fuel in your engine. And you talked about the hard work. I think, I'm sure you're familiar with Bobby Knight.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
He was the coach for, I guess he ended his career at Texas Tech, or his career was ended at Texas Tech, whichever way you want to look at it. I read something that he wrote, and he talked about when he recruited players, most of the he could almost bet that the players he recruited from inner city, low income schools were the ones that were without a doubt going to make it through his program. Whereas the other kids that came from not that, they didn't live they don't know that life, they would struggle. And he attributed it to the fact, like the definition of convenience, or the definition of hard. And it sounds like if you were 16 years old having to fend for yourself, like a lot of people don't know what that's like, being taken care of and supported. Like, we all want that, but having to do it on your own, you don't know what that's like until you've done it. And it reshapes your lens on the world. And that explains a lot, right? Because you and I kind of connected right out of the gate. And I'm like, oh, because we both roll the same, right? I didn't have to fend for myself at 16, but I didn't have a lot of creature comforts. What a lot of people think is hard is like, no, man, that's a dream. I'd love to have that. But you mentioned courage, hard work and courage. What do you mean by courage?
Yeah. So even when things are scary or hard, I love that story about the coach, because, the inner city folks have nothing to go back to. So you lose. There is no security. We're trying to escape it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But even leaving the small comforts of the little apartment with the little bit of food, to go into the big bad world with no real skills, and probably a lot of insecurity issues, because you didn't have the right upbringing, being able to take that step, like the Army, like I didn't have many choices. And that's a lot of courage. I mean, you got to remember, I wanted to escape jail or death, and I'm serious. I got scared walking to school every day and walking back. There were certain routes you took, and you knew that certain corners you would almost kind of like try to like be unseen,
Yes, no eye contact.
And if they caught you and they were in that mood today, you're running, or you just have to deal with them catching you.
Yeah.
And so I left that to go to the Army. And if you really think about it, in 95, for $600 a month, to potentially go to war and lose my life there.
Yeah.
So I know, but that's the reality of the military, right? And sure. It's not just for fun. That was courageous in itself. And then leaving all that I knew, right? Even if it was scary there, it's all I knew. And once I left, I knew I would never go back. And I was basically really crossing a bridge and then never going back. And that bridge disappeared when I left. And so there was no turning back. It was one way, and it was alone. Until I met my wife,
Wow. So the independence, making decisions that weren't guaranteed, laid out independently without that security, like you mentioned, that backup plan. the backup plan was death or prison, right? I mean, that wasn't your choice, but that's what everybody around you was dealing with.
The exception was success, right? So
Yeah, yeah,
I'm a success story.
absolutely.
Um, fortunately, but I don't even have a friend left
Wow.
that isn't hasn't gone to prison or experienced some traumatic stuff in their lives. I do have some buddies from the Army from 25 years ago, but not from the hood.
It's real, right? We see it in the movies. It's for real.
It's for real.
Yeah, it's man. I'm having flashbacks of some of my buddies.
Yeah.
So here's a thing. As you were kind of breaking through the friction of that environment, that lifestyle, I mean, naturally you have friends and family. Did you experience any judgment or critique or pushback about you making the decisions to get out?
Well, I didn't share my plans because I knew there was going to be some major peer pressure, and actually, they'll scare you to stay. I just did it all in secret and then left. Yeah, I had to, right? You don't talk about it because they'll try and make it not happen. But then when I got into the military, I found 90% of the people there were just like me. Doesn't matter what color or what gender or whether they're from New York or Alabama or Florida or even California, we all had the same story. The young farm boy trying to get out of the young farm or the small farm town where his parents didn't make a lot and he just didn't want to be stuck there like they were for 50 years and just thought, I'm stuck. The New York kid who was in tough neighborhoods and he just wanted to get out of New York, and the Florida kid was raised in the trailer, and I know it sounds funny. It's not. I'm being very serious about these little personalities, and we all had a story. We were going there to serve our country, but to utilize that option to escape our past, and so we bonded really quickly. Because we were united by the military and then united like-minded from our past. So it wasn't hard to transition. The funny thing is all of us young kids in those lifestyles were looking for families, right? And so that was that brotherhood, that sisterhood. But it was a brother and sisterhood of crime, right? And so in the military, it was a brother and sisterhood of the good side. We were on the good side now,
Right.
So it was cool, man. That was easy after that.
So you're pretty active on social media. I'm trying to take your lead because the stuff you put up there is engaging, and I've seen quite a bit of stuff about regarding your veteran advocacy. Tell us something about that.
Yeah, there's so much stigma around veterans. Well, so first of all, the minority of a veteran is hard to recognize. So if you saw me and I was walking, downtown, you probably wouldn't know that I had a minority or a protected status. I'm a white dude, I'm 5'6". I don't have Army tattooed across my forehead. It's very difficult to be recognized as a minority. Now, with that, the other cool thing about veterans is we're the only minority that has every single minority in it, right?
Yeah.
Right. So every single minority can be a veteran, but not every minority has veterans. So it's a super inclusive and unrecognizable. Have a hard time because the short and fast of it all is we were trained to be soldiers.
Yes.
So you took us, basically an 18-year-old kid with no parenting, and the Army became my dad. And then I was combat, right? So it was do this way. This is how you're going to do it. Don't talk back and execute. Now we had some good times after that at nights. We had fun. We all hung out, but it was very, very direct, very unemotional, very, very good, effective communication, not a lot of opportunities for interpretation in that type of communication, because on the battlefield, it's like, I need you to go to that
Go there
now. And you don't get to go, well, it's my break time. I'm very uncomfortable with the way you said that. Can you talk to me a little bit more about what that means? I just don't think, this is very confrontational. So you didn't get to do any of that, right? It was, right. If you did, like you got shot. Like, yeah, there was a reason. Yes. Yes. He talked too much. That wasn't very smart. Right. You go there now. When I came back, I came out into becoming EMT and a paramedic and then a firefighter. And I could hide my personality in there because they were all very much like that too. Yeah. Do that, innovate this, compressions now, drop this medication, go to the first floor, fight the fire, and it was no time to discuss. You just did it. Transition into the corporate environment. This is where the minority becomes a minority, because we were trained from basically adolescence one way, and they don't just train you, they make you become a soldier. Okay. And so people are looking at you like, man, this guy, dude, what's up with this guy, man? He's super intense. I love this passion, but man, he just talks very direct, And so that's hard to navigate. Now, over time, through a lot of mentors and instructors and trainers, even corporate leadership guidance, it's starting to change, right? It's starting to change, and it's becoming easier. Why did I go there? A lot of folks are dealing with more than just, it's not just suicide, that's a sad story. Veterans are dealing with not understanding how to fit into team dynamics because the teams look different than what they're used to, right? It was very aggressive for 2 hours during the battle. And then we went home and we're like, and when we say we go home, we went to the tent where we all hung out and needed each other the next day. So it's hard, man, because people look at me across the table and go, this guy's a jerk. And it's not personal ever. It can be because you're like, so what about this? And they're like, whoa, we can't just ask it.
Yeah. So how much calibration did you have to take on transitioning into the corporate world?
Major calibration.
Yeah.
Major. Yeah. And I, and I don't know, because I've never walked a day in any other minority shoes, but if you were to maybe ask, a female, how much calibration did it take for them to be in a male dominated, or how much even a Latino and maybe a Caucasian dominated or any other mosaic, we're dealing with the same difficulties, but you don't see our minority unless we are a minority of identity, right? Like Correct. You can see it. So that's hard because people don't get that, So it's been tough. But it's harder to ask all of them to change for us than it is for us to learn to change in a healthy direction. But that's what inclusion is all about, is taking that relationship and finding the middle ground, Interesting ride, brother. Interesting.
Yeah. Well, I think you made an important point in your situation, or in the situation of veterans. It's not just for veterans, right? The idea of it's easier for me to change than it is for everybody else to change. That's a universal principle. Mm-hmm. If I can, I have more influence over myself than I do anything else. And I use the word influence specifically because I can't even control myself, but I can influence myself, right? And when I'm working with groups of people and in any manner, it's easy for me to say, well, damn it, if everybody would just listen to me, right? That's not going to happen. That don't happen. So how do I adjust and calibrate so that I can achieve my purpose? Yeah. And so taking ownership of that instead of pushing it onto others. Yes, people need to adjust, but I've got I've got greater influence over me than I do them. So if I adjust, it can be easier and may motivate them to adjust also, right? Because they can see like, okay, he's trying, and then back and forth, there's that reciprocal relationship of people trying to learn how to work together.
Yeah, I love that, dude. I really love that you said that influence, because that's exactly right. You're really trying to almost look in the mirror all day long, right? So how did that come out? Was it said correctly? Was it even body language?
Yeah, oh yeah.
You go to the old drill sergeant thing, and it's this. It's bah, bah, bah.
Yep, knife
And
hands.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, and then you hit it the nail on the head. Once you become more vulnerable and break down the barriers and try to become more influential over being intentional, people start to move in the direction to meet you in the middle. Yes. They start to accept you and your personality, but not all of it.
Right.
And then you start to accept their personality or their culture, and that relationship really becomes healthy. And that's where I'm at, right? I really am there. I feel like it's like I have those little spurts, but I catch it, I drop back, and I recalibrate and then engage again, so.
It's evident, dude. Like I said, you and I connected, and I'm like, this dude, like he ain't playing. He's here to make something happen. But also I could see the, what would I say? The checks, like you're checking, am I doing this? Am I offensive? Am I, you said it, right? I mean, me with my beautiful tan, if people can't tell, I'm Hispanic, right? And we learn, like we go into these environments and we got to learn those unwritten rules or not, we can fight it. And that's not fun, but learning the unwritten rules, it creates this kind of weird thing where you say what's on your mind. And then you kind of like, oh, that didn't look like it landed right. Shit, what did I say? What do I do next time? Like in the moment, right? It's all of this micro adjustments that, like you said earlier, man, women, I could not imagine the kind of BS that they've got to go through. And then we complain about them, right? Like they got so much running in their head. Well, because they have to. We kind of created that.
I can imagine, man. Going back to courage, we just had a all hands meeting, and I basically said, where are the ladies at? There's 800 people, and there's like, it just felt like there was 4 of them.
Wow. Yeah.
I'm sure there was 50, but I just felt like I saw 4. I'm like, her. I'm like, where are the ladies at? And it was like, woo. And yeah. I told them, I said, ladies, we are so proud of you, of your courage, your professionalism to navigate all this every day, and your leadership. Like really, like think about how much courage and self-control, which is leadership, it takes to go all day long like that. You know what I mean? And so I just hats off to them right now.
Oh, yeah.
Now take this. What about a female of color from the military? One on my team. Yeah,
but so you got insight to what she's dealing with. I mean, Are you mentoring her specifically?
Absolutely. So she's in the women's committee. She's in the veterans committee.
Okay.
She works directly with me. I protect her, professionally protect her, not as a male protects the lady, but like as a friend, as a partner, and a coach. It's been fun, man. It's cool watching her blossom.
And applause to you, sir, for doing the good work, for doing the right thing. We need a lot more of that. So you mentioned coming into the corporate world. Was there a transition from corporate to construction?
My first corporate change was in 2014. I had just spent 6 years in Africa as the site emergency medical services manager on a large refinery on an island in the west coast of Africa. And that's when I noticed, that's when I knew that I wanted to transition into safety. And so basically I was asked you want to come on our team? Well, we love your personality, but you don't have the education. Like you don't. Aha, right? So remember we were talking about doors opening and luck?
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, I was hoping they were going to go, look, we'll just waive the education part.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's the truth, right? So here it is. Okay, how old was I then? 10 years ago. So 34. And now with probably 3 kids at that time, it's work
Mm.
and go to school.
Yeah.
There's more courage, more work hard, right?
Yes. Yes.
And I did it. I spent 4 years and got my bachelor's degree, and that's when Marathon Oil brought me on as a safety professional.
Okay.
And so that was the first transition. Now, lucky for me, we were on a refinery in the middle of Africa where I spent 3 years on shore and then 2 years offshore around a bunch of roughnecks.
Mm-hmm.
So they were all,
you could talk the way you needed to talk.
Yeah, it was West Texas, Louisiana, and then a lot of British, from the North Sea, all tough, very professional, very smart people. But I could hide amongst them,
Yeah, you mixed in with them very well.
Yes.
That's awesome.
But then when I transitioned to the data center work, where I started having direct reports who were not either of those, military or from the oil and gas industry, and then working with the customer who was very corporate, right? Tech.
Yeah, oh yeah.
We're talking very, very important to them is making people feel like they're safe, and direct and aggressive, what looks like aggressive. So in a veteran's mind, I'm like, shoot, that was me being nice.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that's toned down. So I was like, I had a long way to go. But to them, you have to transition. This is the culture we want. This is the culture that works for us. And so that transition really started happening mostly the last 3 years. 4 years. Yeah.
So what kind of resources did you access to help, I'm going to call it, soften those edges? Because I have the same issue.
Yeah.
I've had the same issue for a very long time. Now, I'm not a veteran. I'm just a jerk. What kind of resources did you access to smooth that over?
The first thing I did is I was reading a lot of leadership books.
Okay.
But I did something wrong, and I don't mean to offend anybody, but I was reading a lot of these military leadership books, like You Can't Hurt Me, Extreme Ownership.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're great books, but they're also very heavy and direct. So between people who have never been in the military, but in leadership positions, vice presidents and maybe like area directors of a sort, I started really receiving some mentorship off them. But the best thing that ever happened to me was getting an executive coach.
Ah, okay.
She changed me more than I've ever been changed in 6 weeks.
Wow.
I mean, I tried to be me on the phone with her, and she took me, it's what's called being above the line.
Okay.
And so there's this triangle, it's called the drama triangle. And everybody wants to be one of those corners of the triangle. And one of those corners is the hero. Look, this is what I'm doing for everybody. Look at what I can do. I'm valuable to you, I don't know why, you don't listen to me. Then there's the victim. It's his fault. They're always picking on me. I try my best, and then there's the influencer, which is basically like, those two got issues, and right? Yeah. So being any one of those isn't really accepting responsibility, and being above the line. And so getting above the line is actually another step in courage, where it is having conversations that are uncomfortable, but very factual.
Yep.
So, hey, Jesse, I noticed the other day you weren't wearing your safety glasses, and, I approached you, man, and from the bottom of my heart, it made sense to get you to wear them. And you really gave me some attitude. And I get that you might have been having a bad day, but man, it affected me. Like it hurt my feelings too. Like, because I don't get it. I don't get why you wouldn't want to follow the rules, and it felt like you were making it personal. And so I just want to chat with you about this and see why you made that decision. And now that sets a totally different tone.
Yeah.
It wasn't, look, dude, you're wrong. It's not your fault. It's my fault. Your fault. No. And then it's like, whoa, bro. Well, you don't get it. I've been wearing my COVID mask all day, and all this, it keeps fogging up. And to be honest, the safety glasses I feel are more of a hazard to wear with them fogging than it is to do the work without them. And whatever that is, and then there's solutions to that.
Sure.
And then you go, oh, okay, I get that. And then if you start having more conversations like that, conversations start to become just normal. But the problem is it takes courage to talk like that.
Yeah.
Where a lot of people can just hide behind, bro, put your safety glasses on, it's a rule.
That's it, done. Mm-hmm.
The other problem with that conversation is it feels like it takes longer. So to the busy leader, you're like, look, man, I can just be direct, get it done. But if you have a few conversations like that, questions in the future become automatic because there's respect, there's trust. So the bottom base of another triangle is trust.
Yes.
You can't build on anything until you have that trust.
Yes.
And she taught me this over 6 weeks. And I was like, whoa, like, she's like, yeah, because every time, dude, so I'm going to share this more with you because it really changed my life. Every time I get on there and I'd be like, yeah, he's doing this. I understand why. This is that. This is it. I know he does that. And she's like, yeah, you're right. Have you talked to him? And I'm like, you just didn't hear what I said. Like, makes me uncomfortable and he frustrates me. And she's like, well, I can't fix that for you. You have to have that conversation with him.
Yeah.
And it's going to be tough, but you got to take those 4 steps. Yep. Invite him into your world. Ask him if he has some time, or her. Open up. Tell him how you made it feel. See how they felt. And then come up with a solution at the end and agree to it. Done. So, wow. Dude, it was cool. It is cool.
Yeah. Well, you say courage, but it seemed like courage is displayed when you're being vulnerable, right? To have that conversation and say, hey, bro, like you got all up in my face and I didn't like the way that felt. I was a little intimidated. You hurt my feelings. That's vulnerability, right? Because you're exposing everything. And because you're exposing everything and inviting them in, asking them how they feel, that's courage, right? Leaving yourself open for whatever could happen. That simple step, it's not a simple one, right? That big, giant, intimidating step, that's courage. But on the other side of it, man, like it's golden, huh?
Dude, well, that's it. Dude, I mean, that's exactly right, right? So it takes courage to be vulnerable.
Yes.
And I don't think, I have not encountered anybody that was like, you got your Phillies hurt?
Yeah. Pansy.
Yeah. But you know why? Because they know that it takes a stronger person to do what you just did.
Yes.
Where you walk up and you sit down and you just make everybody feel comfortable and you go, hey, I'm about to have a conversation with you that's important. I want to know if you got some time for me, because I got to get something off my chest.
Yeah.
And then just lay it out there, but stay above the line, right? It's not a he said, she said. It's more of,
this is what happened.
What happened? Like, I tried this, you did this, I tried this. How come we didn't agree at the end? And it's stay above the line. Don't become a victim. Don't try to be an influencer. Don't try to be the hero.
All right. This is what happened. And yeah, that's some pretty good secret sauce there.
Dude, Drama Triangle, great video on YouTube. They're like 6 minutes or less.
All right, I'm gonna put that in the show notes. Drama Triangle, YouTube. I'm gonna check it out because I could
Check
use
it out,
some.
dude.
So, what you've told us, 16 years old, you moved out, joined the military, worked the oil field. Now you're in construction, data center life. When you were a youngin, what did you want to do? What were you thinking? Like, this is what I want to do when I grow up.
Yeah, so I wanted to be a firefighter.
Okay, and you did that.
Yeah, I got that one, man. At 30 years old, I became a Los Angeles City fireman, paramedic.
Was that tough?
Every step of the way. I mean, when I tested for Los Angeles City, so first of all, you've got to have something to offer. So by the time I became a firefighter, you needed to have a degree, you needed to be a paramedic, an academy, mostly from a community college, or a veteran. Well, I didn't have a degree, but my veteran and paramedic was basically what helped me stand out amongst 3,000 people. Now, you still had to score against the best, but they were looking for certain skills like the veteran leadership style and then the paramedic, because a lot of departments were transitioning from basic life support to advanced life support. Yeah, after about 4.5 years of school and academies and paramedic school and testing and polygraph tests and background checks and another academy, man, I landed in LA City. That was a whole nother ride.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was actually close to some of the ghettos, working in those big, beautiful fire engines and trucks and some of the ghettos that I grew up in, man.
Okay.
So I got to look out the window down at kids that may be looking up at me going, man, I hope I can do that someday. So that was really cool.
So there's a consistent thread with you. I mean, if you wanted to be a fireman when you're a little kid in East Los and joined the military, now you're EH&S, where do you think that came from?
Something was put into me about serving. Now, servant leadership is different than serving others. So they're two different things. So I was willing to risk my life, and that reward of going home and helping people was enough for me. That was an act of service. And I don't know where that came from, man. I don't know if it was my first dad, the Army, that taught me that, because I didn't see it, or maybe it was just me saying, dude, people can hurt, and I've seen what hurt looks like. And I have enough strength and courage and work ethic to maybe get someone home safe that day. Honestly, man, I'll keep it simple. I just think I had the ability to do it.
Yeah. You knew you had it in you and you went after it.
Nothing. I don't remember getting it. I just had the ability. I wanted to be a firefighter because they were heroes to me. And maybe selfishly, I wanted to become a hero myself. But the reward, dude, is, you can't, there's no price you could put on that, I say that humbly because I think there's some selfishness behind it, but not a lot.
So what would you say to a youngster, say middle school, let's say middle school, about if they were considering a job in the construction industry specifically, what advice and warning would you give them?
Wow. One of the things I wish I got early on, but I didn't have that influence in my life, whether it was a mom or a dad or an uncle or something that had a craft behind them, a trade.
Yep.
Oh man, I wish I had a trade, because something I could even give to my children, something that always has this independence. So I would say, first of all, find that interesting trade. Even if you want to become a safety professional and you have an opportunity, do something in the trades first. Become really good at earthwork, or become really good at, heavy equipment operator, or become good at scaffolding or painting or drywalling or electrical. Grab a trade first. That would really help you transition into the culture of what construction is. Then you can transition into different parts of construction if you're interested in becoming in leadership. where you would maybe become a project manager or senior project manager or a project executive or safety professional into safety engineering, or go to school to become an engineer, but get that trade first. I think it's valuable. Some of the best safety professionals I've ever hired came through the trade. I would say that. Now, construction is not easy at all. So first of all, just like oil and gas, you're going to have your 10-year downs, decade to 15 years. There's some risk and stuff that happens with the market, so always remember that. But then again, there's stuff that happens in every market. But healthcare, nursing, I don't think they're ever going to go away. Firefighters, aren't ever going to. So what I'm saying is you have to expect some ups and downs there. And then you just got to remember, you're probably getting up at 5 o'clock with the rest of us. And you're going to be, if you're truly on a project, you're going to go through all 3 seasons or 4 seasons, whatever. Illinois has 2 seasons. Florida has 1. But you're going to go through all of those phases of seasons while trying to make something materialize. And so if you're looking for an easy career, I would suggest not jumping into construction.
10-4. No,
right?
that's for real, man. Like, takes a certain type of personality. And I have a theory. That sounds all official, right? When I was in school, I was the kid I was always in trouble. I liked the tension, but I also had too much energy. So I'm sitting and the teacher's teaching, and it's like, okay, I got it. Like, what's next? Give me something else to do. So I was always in the principal. Back in the day when you could get paddled, I got paddled in high school so much that the vice principal, when he saw me come to his office, he just said, "You know what, dude? Just sit down. Like, it doesn't work. I'm not going to paddle you anymore." Like, I wore him out,
dude.
So my point is, I was not thinking about a career as a plumber, right? My dad was a plumber. Like, that was the last thing on my mind. But the very first time I walked on that job site, it was a commercial job site. I was like, dude, like this, it was like Disneyland, man. Like, there was so much going on, noise, right? All the equipment, people working, building things, carrying things. Kind of like you talked about earlier, right? When you were in the oil field, you were able to kind of blend in. That's how I felt. Like all my not nervous, but all my damn energy that used to get me in trouble didn't get me in trouble anymore. Like, nobody even noticed it. And so I think about those kids that because there's a lot of them, right? A lot of them are my friends that struggled with standing in line and keeping their hands up to the side and sitting up and, following all those little rules that I still don't understand them, right? Like, they don't make sense to me. I get it, right? We need to have some kind of order, but come on, man. So those kids that struggle with that type of environment, like, I got to do homework if I already understand the concept. What the hell is that? I think those kids are perfect for the construction. Like, the construction industry is perfect for them, I should say. But you got to have the want to get physical and be accustomed to dealing with the elements. I used to, my previous employer, I used to recruit high school students, right? And so the teachers or the administrators, counselors were like, they wanted to give me their straight A, their honor roll students. I'm like, yeah, like, those kids they're going to struggle. And they're like, okay, so what are you looking for? I said, look, if they've been in band, sports, shop, like anything that required them to do stuff super early in the morning, exposed to the elements and work with other people, I don't care what their grades are. If they do that, they're going to have a better chance of being successful in this industry. And the number one complaint from, those younger students that we were getting was being at the job site at 7 a.m. Like, man, everything's awesome. I get paid once a week. Like, this is great, but I hate waking up at 5 a.m.
Dude, you nailed it, man. When you said Disneyland, I mean, look, you got to love what you do. But if I could retire tomorrow, I'm sorry, I'm not one of those who would continue working.
Right.
But if you're going, man, I get up, I jump in the truck, I go to work, I grab my coffee, I fire up my computer, I throw it underneath my arm, and I get back in the truck, and I'm scraping off the window with snow, and I'm stomping around in my boots, and I've got these jeans on and this vest and these, this stuff. I get in the truck, I drive to the work site, there's mud and there's snow, and I'd show up to the first meeting, and we're all sitting in there with our coffees, waking up for the day, building a mega project, and I'm undressing because it's hotter in there, and I'm sitting there, my phone's already blowing up, emails are popping, and I'm multitasking, and then I get back in that truck and I go visit the project, and I'm making calls, and I'm trying to, just put out fires as proactively as I can, but it doesn't stop all day. Then it's prepare for a meeting, but really prepare. You don't just get to show up. You're going to probably have to engage, answer questions, be prepared for some feedback, have actionable items, address them, and then move on. And then there's engagements all day long. So then there's corrections and positive observations, and it doesn't stop. And so for those of us who are kind of, the ones that got bored, or felt that we needed to be, I think we're more exhilarating. I don't know. I needed something engaging me all the time. And I was no gamer, I just was like that. Every time there was a vacant lot, I find scrap wood around the neighborhood and just build a fort and do something. I just couldn't, so yeah, if you're like that personality,
it's a good spot for them, huh?
Yeah.
So the finale question, Jarrod, what mark do you want to leave on the world?
Well, oh man, so as deep and complex as that may sound, it's very simple to me. I just want people to remember that I tried my best, and that I was always there to help, and that if they ever needed anything, that I would always take the shirt off my back. But the biggest thing for me is raising good children, man. Spending the rest of my life with my wife, and retiring as a good husband, and that really truly is being a good father and a good husband is my number one goal. Leading the way through this industry with courage and strength is really why I do this for them. Husband, father, friend.
Yeah, it sounds simple.
No, I mean, that sounds simple. It sounds.
Yep.
But it is extremely hard to achieve all those.
So how many, I got to meet your wife and got to see the couple young ladies peek in. How many kids?
4.
Woohoo, baby.
Yeah, that's what happens when you go back and forth to Africa. Married for 14 years in August. Wow. Turning 44 tomorrow.
Woo, congratulations, man.
Thanks, brother. I've got a son who's 13, a daughter who's 11, a little girl who's turning 8, and another one turning 6. And so I got 3 little girls and 1 boy. And we're known as the Tomassi posse.
Tomassi posse in the house. That's awesome, man.
I'm going to go back to my East Los days and get it in Old English on my stomach.
Yeah, baby. Watch out. You got to represent, right?
Yeah.
Dude, thank you for everything that you shared. I think really I'm grateful for your time. And I feel valued that you would even consider being on the podcast. And I think the thoughts that you've shared are going to be valuable for other people. And that's really what motivated, we need to do this, not to produce a podcast, but to help people. And your message, man, I think is gonna pay dividends for some of our listeners out there. I think it can impact and change their life. There's a lot of reality. It's back to the vulnerability. You've been very vulnerable in sharing your message and sharing your experiences. And hopefully our listeners will catch that and take it forward. Well, y'all, that was a pretty intimate conversation that we just had with Mr. Jarrod Tomassi. And I'm really glad that I was able to share that experience with you guys. I want to give a shout out to our listener, Steparn, Steparn, who left us a review in Apple Podcasts. Stepan says, "What a great listen. I love that they are very practical and relatable. It's like listening to old friends with real work experiences. This is a great way to get our kids a broader view on the possibilities in the construction industry." Thank you, Stepan. And like, mega thank you, because that is exactly what we're trying to do. The whole purpose of this podcast is to help everybody out there understand that there is more than one option to acquiring a higher quality of life. A career in the construction industry, a career in the trades is absolutely an option. The feedback is extremely meaningful to us, and we appreciate you taking that extra time out of your day to go down there and click on the stars you believe we've earned from you, and going further to type in this review for us. It's going to help us get the word out there to more people. The rest of you, please, you're always invited to leave us a review. Let us know what you think, good, bad, ugly, and all of the above. Man, you are one dedicated listener, sticking with us all the way through to the very, very end. Please know that this podcast dies without you, and we invite you to share how the episode's impacting you, along with your thoughts, questions, and suggestions. You've been gracious with your time, so we added social media links in the show notes to make it super easy for you to connect with us. Be kind to yourself, stay cool, and we'll talk at you next time.